presentation is a technology from NASA called 3DS3. Please welcome Rick Jennette.
Thank you for coming. Our company is called 3DSQ, just to get that straight. We've licensed and patented the technology from NASA, and basically it came out of the Columbia disaster. And okay, question?
What team number is this team?
5. Sorry. So regarding the technology we got from NASA, which basically the disaster spawned a technology for them. As you all know, 10 years ago, roughly, Columbia went down, and it was due to a gas in penetration of the wing, because there's a hole in the wing. So they devised a 3D laser scanner to, as you can see here, to analyze and inspect the tiles in the space shuttle, and to determine if there was any cracks or any imperfections in the surface. Well, we looked at this and we thought, you know, this would be really cool to use in the aviation industry, because it's very close to the same kind of technology. We have to get all kinds of regulations from the FAA, and NASA works very closely with the FAA. So we decided that we would utilize this in the aviation industry. And we wanted to take a good look at the market. We found out that the market is really huge. We saw that it was growing in the next 20 years, especially in the commercial area, that it was going to double. The corporate jets were going to double, and military was going to grow at a good pace. So as you can see from this chart, there's plenty of airplanes out there that need to be inspected. Just to give you an idea of our product, the 3DS3-1000 laser scanner, really what it's going to do is, if you see that picture there, that's just a picture of one little facet on an airplane. And if you use an example of like 747, there's 6 million of those things that have to be inspected. So the time that's being taken to analyze this is used with visual methods now. And roughly, the FAA says that they're supposed to cover about 60 square feet in scanning this. And with our new machine, they can do the same amount in an hour, 75 square feet. So we save time and money. We can actually reduce the labor cost by 20%. We have a 2-second scan, and this laser scanner is put on the surface, and it's just immediately runs through a very quick scan, and you get a real-time image of what is going on. It increases the accuracy in the inspections by the fact that it can see 2 inches deep if there's a crack in the surface. So you get a real-time scan of that. The 3D image that comes out can be then projected on any device in the cloud, and it can be reviewed by anybody, anywhere in the world. So we wanted to look at, now we knew that the market was big, the product was really cool, and we wanted to look and see, okay, what's our potential? What do we think we could sell? Well, we knew that the FAA and other agencies around the world regulate this industry and tell them that they have to do inspections, especially on different areas of the airplanes, at certain intervals. There's 4 different intervals that they have to do that. And one of the intervals is just one of those ones that you're at the gate. So we didn't even bother focusing on those, because the list that they have to do is not including the surface scans. So we looked at B checks, where there's possibility that overnight you might have hit a hailstone or something like that, that there might be an incidence where roughly about 10% would have an opportunity to use this. So the C checks are the big checks. They have to take almost the whole plane into their analysis. And D checks are roughly about every 5 years, but they're done as a complete teardown. Very costly. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. So we found out that there's roughly about 95,000 technicians around the globe that service these airplanes. And about that, when we did the math and we said, okay, if there's this many hours they estimate, with the amount of planes and the amount of checks they have to do, we figured that there's a total market out there about 90,000 units. So we thought, this is pretty cool. But this is just the commercial area. We couldn't even analyze the military aspects. So as far as our competitive advantages go, we saw that this scanner, compared to anything out there we could see, had a much faster scanning rate. The other thing was, we really found out there's no competition. There's a lot of different scanners out there, especially 3D, but they're really going after what is considered to be just the facade. Basically to scan something and put it in some other software so they can see what it looks like and turn it around. This really does look at the surface and look for imperfections. Then we looked at, okay, our real-time scanning. Nobody has real-time. The worst case scenario we found, it doesn't render for 3 days. So we thought that was really pretty cool too. And the highest resolution, we have the highest resolution of all the 3D scanners we could come across that are supposedly used in this industry. We looked at the price. The prices out there range from $9,000 to $10,000 up to $62,000, $63,000 for a scanner. And we had this philosophy. We thought, there's 95,000 guys out there that are fixing these planes. How do we make this thing the hammer of the industry, like for the carpenter? So we said, if we have a price point where we introduce this at $10,000, this is a no-brainer for them. They'll pretty much, everybody will take it. So, and then the other thing is cloud services. We looked at cloud services. This is an antiquated industry that is based on paper. We found out that the planes are still using the big fat logbooks on paper. So they're switching, but we saw if we can get a cloud service and a subscription service to where we have all the historical scans in there, then any engineer anywhere will have access to them. On top of that, the software that does the conversion and the analysis will allow them to see from the historic changes, or the historic scans, what the changes were. Those two aspects. Lightweight, this thing only weighs 3.5 pounds. The heaviest one that's out there is 53 pounds. So we started going in and we thought, okay, if we're going to go out in this market, what do we figure we're going to do? We're going to have 4 basic revenue streams, right? And we knew it's going to take 3 things to get us really into the market. One is we have to definitely get the FAA on board. We have to work with the OEMs because we need, for the cloud services, we need to have the historical database. So we have one of the streams that we're going to do is we're going to sell a scanner, of course. And then year 1 is the rollout of the initial scanner developed by NASA. In year 2, we hope to redevelop the scanner, make it a little larger, and then also allow it to transmit wirelessly through cell phones and through Bluetooth. It doesn't have those capabilities at this time. It just does a wireless Wi-Fi at this time. The second year is our pivotal year. That's really where we're going to convert this company. We're going to invest in more people. We're going to invest in revamping the product. We've already spoken to several people that would look into mounting the new laser on a robotic crawler, so it'll be automated, so we'll be able to scan the surface of the plane through automation, which will cut down man hours even more. And from year 3 is really where the growth of our company comes in. And we're not even talking about the military aspect, because the military is really an unknown for us. Year 3 through 5, we expect to hit in year 5 almost $10 million in revenue, and we expect to, and we plan to, hold our gross profit margins pretty steady at the same rate they are today, so they're pretty steady. As far as profitability goes, in year 5, we anticipate we'll have an EBITDA of about $2 million and $1.4 million in profit. And as far as cash flow goes, pretty much the same scenario. The first 2 years, we're going to burn through a lot of cash. Years 3 through 5, we're building cash, plenty of cash. And the reason why our cash flow is down in year 4 and 5 is because we're paying back the investors. We're paying back plus $350,000. And as far as the opportunity, we're seeking investors. We're seeking investors that have 3 qualities. It would be ideal if we had one that also knew the industry, understood cloud-based services, and the third aspect has good political ties, because we have to deal with a lot of FAA people. And we're seeking $1.4 million total, $550,000 out of the gate. $350,000 at the end of year 2 for secondary development, funding operations, ramping up, and in year 2 for the new products development for the robotic crawler and the expanding of the initial product, another $500,000. We've also contacted several people from the industry, and we have a good management team that's willing to come on board. And we also have a couple Boeing executives that are interested in being on our board. And we expect that either one of Boeing or Airbus would probably be the ones that acquire us in 5 years. That's our exit plan. And we expect to get 7 to 10 times EBITDA. And that gives you a return of greater than 285%. Any questions? Yes.
As I understand, you don't have control of the product. NASA has control of the product.
NASA has, we expect to go into an agreement with them.
So as you talk to a new product coming out year 2, that would be under their control, but things like the crawler would be under your control?
Well, that's what we have to discuss. We've not got to that stage yet. We need to negotiate what the terms of the licensing agreement is. We would love to have, complete control over it ourselves, but, it would depend on what the price is too. So.
Sure. Okay. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I actually have comments as opposed to a question at this point. I like analogies. So the analogy I was thinking of for your product is it's like an MRI for airplanes. Would that be an appropriate analogy?
No, because an MRI, what an MRI does is it sees through a product.
Okay.
We envision later on, after year 5, that there's technology out there that can use this laser and couple other technologies on there to send a beam or protons or something like that through the equipment and see the backside.
Okay.
That's what's missing, the backside.
Okay.
It only goes down 2 inches into the surface.
Okay, that's still interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, our technology, not only is it a technology, but it's going to prevent accidents and save lives.
Yes.
So I think that's an important
That's,
statement.
absolutely.
I just had a question. Do you have a sense of how many planes per device your customers would purchase? Obviously, you wouldn't just have... so let's take Delta Airlines, for example. How many of these do they actually need?
Well, Delta, I don't really know the exact number of airplanes that they have.
Just yeah,
But say,
some kind of metric.
the numbers that we looked at, and we went back to, let me just go back to that slide. When we looked at this, we could determine based on what's out there in the global market, how many planes there are. Say there was 30,000. Well, let's just use the C-checks, for example, because it was easy. C-checks, there was 10,000 inspections that need to be done each year. This is just on the commercial airlines. So with 10,000 man-hours, that basically gave you 100, we did the math and it came up to be, we needed 48,000 units to cover those man years that the hours are involved. And that was the basis of that. Yes, to your point, it's a good question. Does each one need one to walk around? Well, here's the catch. The machine or the scanner itself, it can only do 800 scans without recharging. So if they're going to walk around and have it in proximity, it's really for like those fasteners we had. It's really for those stress points to see. The D and C checks that are the long-term many hours, where we would save money is with the robotic crawler, because it's just going to go along and just follow a CAD/CAM software, and it's just going to map it out and just follow the surface, take a scan, and then it would work. It would go further on. But with this one, if you see something, the problem is the main inspection method is visual. So if the mechanics or the technicians are out there with a flashlight and trying to see if there's any imperfection around these little facets, what they can see and can't see, that's the danger.
1 minute. You guys have any more questions?
That's
1
the
minute.
danger.
Your business plan calls for like 6,000 hours to inspect 6 million rivets on a plane, and it takes
A 747, for example, has roughly about 23,000 square feet of fuselage.
So it takes 260 hours to do one inspection of a plane with one unit?
It takes 25 to 30,000 man hours to do the full inspection. Part of that full inspection is a surface scan. Right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop a device that's going to cut down that. The first part of the scan they have to do are the stress points. So all the stress points are all those little fasteners. And it just so happens that it takes about 108 hours to currently do a 747 with the visual method.
Okay,
We can do it in 80.
quick, real quick.
Okay, have you ever considered, besides selling equipment, selling just the service, having the equipment yourself and selling the service to the companies?
Well, we were planning on doing the 4 revenue streams that we had, I probably didn't articulate that correctly, was the cloud-based services where they could actually access the historical scans. The second one was the software that actually shows you what's wrong. And the third one was, of course, the scanner itself, and the fourth one is parts and service.
No, but in
So
terms of,
if we just,
instead of selling the scanner, using your own scanner and selling it as a service for the companies yourself?
and lease the scanner, you mean?
Yes.
That's an alternative. We looked at that, but we wanted to, because we had this vision, we wanted to make the hammer for the industry, so in other words, and that was our goal. So, but no, it's a very, very, very good point.
Okay, we're out of time. Let's hear it for Team 5.